I always believed in love, the kind that makes your heart race, your skin tingle, and your dreams feel like they're just one step away from reality. I grew up in a small town, where the streets were lined with old brick houses, and the air always smelled faintly of rain and freshly cut grass. My life was simple, but I had big dreams. I wanted a love that felt like home, a man who would look at me like I was his entire world. And for a while, I thought I had found that in John. I met John at a local cafe one rainy afternoon. I was 24, working as a cashier at a bookstore, and saving up for a future I hadn't quite figured out yet. He walked in, his dark hair damp from the rain, his smile wide and confident. He ordered a black coffee and made a joke about how the weather was trying to drown him. I laughed, and that was it, the spark. We started talking, and before I knew it, we were exchanging numbers. John was charming, the kind of man who could make you feel like you were the only person in the room. He had a way of looking at me that made my stomach flip, like I was special, like I mattered. Our relationship moved fast. Within weeks, we were inseparable. John was everything I thought I wanted: tall, handsome, with a deep voice that made my heart skip. He worked as a mechanic, and his hands were always a little rough, stained with oil, but I loved the way they felt when he held me. We spent our evenings driving around in his old pickup truck, the windows down, music blaring, singing along to songs we both loved. At night, we'd lie in his small apartment, tangled in the sheets, our bodies close, our laughter filling the silence. I felt alive with him, like every moment was brighter, sharper, more real. In the bedroom, things were intense. John loved the way I made him feel, and he wasn't shy about saying it. He'd whisper in my ear, telling me how much he needed me, how I drove him wild. I felt powerful, desired, like I was giving him something no one else could. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional too. I thought we were building something real, something that could last forever. I imagined a future with him: marriage, kids, a little house with a garden where I could grow flowers. I thought he saw that future too. But love, I learned, can blind you. It can make you ignore the little cracks in the foundation until they're too big to fix. The first sign something was wrong came about 6 months into our relationship. John started acting distant. He'd cancel plans at the last minute, saying he had to work late or meet up with friends. His phone was always buzzing, and he'd turn it face down whenever I was around. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was being paranoid. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. One night, I decided to surprise him. He'd said he was working late at the garage, so I baked his favorite chocolate chip cookies and drove over to bring them to him. When I got there, the garage was dark, the doors locked. My stomach twisted. I called him, but he didn't pick up. I sat in my car, the cookies growing cold in my lap, my mind racing. Where was he? Why had he lied? I drove to his apartment, my heart pounding. His truck was parked outside, and the lights were on inside. I knocked, but no one answered. I don't know what made me try the door, but it was unlocked. I walked in, and there he was, on the couch, with another woman. She was sitting on his lap, her arms around his neck, their lips locked. The world stopped. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment, I couldn't move. John. My voice was barely a whisper. He jumped up, pushing the woman off him. Amora, what are you doing here? The woman looked at me, confused, then back at John. Who's she? She asked. I didn't wait for his answer. I dropped the cookies on the floor and ran out, my vision blurred with tears. I could hear him calling after me, but I didn't stop. I drove home, my hands shaking on the steering wheel, my heart shattering with every mile. When I got home, I locked the door and sank to the floor, sobbing. How could he do this to me? I had given him everything: my heart, my trust, my body. I thought we were building a life together, but it was all a lie. I felt like a fool. The next day, John showed up at my apartment. He knocked for an hour, begging me to let him in, saying it was a mistake, that he was drunk, that it didn't mean anything. I stood on the other side of the door, listening to his excuses, but they only made me angrier. A mistake. You don't accidentally kiss another woman. You don't accidentally break someone's heart. When I finally opened the door, I looked him in the eyes and said, "We're done, John." I can't do this anymore. You broke my trust, and I deserve better. His face changed then. The charming, soft-spoken John the first knew disappeared. His eyes darkened, and his jaw tightened. You're breaking up with me, he said, his voice low and sharp. After everything I've done for you. Done for me? I snapped. You cheated, John. You lied to me. He stepped closer, towering over me. You don't get to walk away like this, Amora. You don't get to make me look like the bad guy. I stood my ground, even though my heart was racing. Get out, I said. I don't want to see you again. He stared at me for a long moment, his eyes cold and hard. Then he turned and left without another word. I thought that was the end of it. I thought I was free. I was wrong. That night, I was alone in my apartment, trying to piece myself back together. I had turned off my phone, lit a candle, and put on some soft music to calm my nerves. I was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, when I heard a knock at the door. My heart skipped. I thought maybe it was my friend Lisa, who had promised to check on me after the breakup. I got up and opened the door without looking through the peephole. That was my first mistake. John stood there, but he wasn't alone. Two of his friends were with him, guys I'd met a few times but never really liked. They were rough, always loud and crude, the kind of people who made you feel uneasy just by being in the room. One was named Mike, a tall guy with a shaved head and a scar across his cheek. The other was Tommy, shorter but stocky, with a smirk that never seemed to leave his face. John, what are you doing here? I asked, my voice shaking. I tried to close the door, but he pushed it open, stepping inside with his friends behind him. We need to talk, he said, his voice calm but cold, like he was holding back something dangerous. There's nothing to talk about, I said, backing up. You need to leave. Now. Mike laughed, a low, ugly sound. She's got some fire, huh, John? Tommy grinned, his eyes scanning me like I was something to be devoured. Yeah, I like that. My stomach twisted. I felt trapped, like a mouse cornered by cats. Get out, I said again, louder this time, but my voice cracked. John stepped closer, his face inches from mine. You think you can just walk away from me? You think you can humiliate me like that? I didn't humiliate you, I said, my voice trembling. You did that to yourself when you cheated. That was when he snapped. His hand shot out, grabbing my arm so tightly I gasped. You don't get to talk to me like that, he hissed. Before I could react, he shoved me, and I stumbled back, hitting the couch. Pain shot through my side, but I barely had time to process it before he was on me, his fist raised. I screamed, trying to push him away, but he was too strong. The first hit landed on my cheek, a sharp, burning pain that made my vision blur. I fell to the floor, my head spinning. Mike and Tommy were laughing now, egging him on. Show her, man, Mike said. Teach her a lesson. I tried to crawl away, but John grabbed me again, pulling me to my feet. You think you're better than me, he shouted. You think you can just throw me away? I was crying now, begging him to stop, but he didn't listen. He hit me again, this time in the stomach, and I doubled over, gasping for air. That's when I heard Tommy say, let's have some fun with her. The room seemed to freeze. I looked up, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Mike and Tommy were closing in, their eyes gleaming with something dark and terrible. I screamed, kicking and clawing, but they were too strong. John held me down while his friends took turns, their hands rough and cruel, their laughter filling my ears like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I don't know how long it lasted. It felt like hours, like my whole world had collapsed into pain and fear and shame. When they finally left, I was lying on the floor, my body bruised and broken, my heart shattered into pieces too small to ever put back together. I heard John's voice as he walked out the door. You brought this on yourself, Amora. I lay there for a long time, unable to move, unable to cry. The candle on the table had burned out, and the room was dark, the only sound my ragged breathing. I felt like I wasn't even human anymore, like they had taken everything that made me and left nothing but a shell. But somewhere, deep inside, a tiny spark of strength flickered. I wasn't going to let them win. I wasn't going to let them destroy me. Slowly, painfully, I dragged myself to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the face staring back at me, swollen, bruised, eyes red and empty. But those eyes still belonged to me. I was still here. I cleaned myself up as best I could, wincing with every movement. I didn't call the police, not yet. I was too scared, too ashamed, too broken. Instead, I called Lisa. She came over right away, her face paling when she saw me. She didn't ask questions at first, she just held me while I cried, her arms the only thing keeping me from falling apart completely. "You need to report this," she said finally, her voice firm but gentle. "They can't get away with this, Amora." I shook my head. "I can't. They'll come after me again." "They won't," she said. "We'll make sure they don't. You're not alone in this." It took hours of talking, of crying, of Lisa holding my hand, before I agreed to go to the police. The next morning, we walked into the station together. My hands were shaking as I told the officer what happened, every word feeling like a knife in my chest. The officer, a kind woman with soft eyes, listened without judgment. She took my statement, asked for details about John and his friends, and promised they would do everything they could. The days that followed were a blur. The police arrested John, Mike, and Tommy, but I knew that was only the beginning. There would be a trial, questions, people looking at me like I was damaged goods. I felt exposed, like the world could see every bruise, every scar, every moment of that horrible night. But Lisa stayed by my side, and slowly, I started to find pieces of myself again. I started therapy, something I never thought I'd need. My therapist, Dr. Evans, was patient and kind, helping me untangle the mess of emotions inside me: anger, shame, fear, guilt. She helped me see that what happened wasn't my fault, that I hadn't brought it on myself like John said. It was hard to believe at first, but every session chipped away at the weight I was carrying. I also found strength in unexpected places. One day, while scrolling through my phone, I stumbled across a support group for survivors of assault. I hesitated, but Lisa encouraged me to go. The first meeting was terrifying. I felt like everyone could see right through me, but the women there welcomed me with open arms. They shared their stories, and I shared mine. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. I wasn't the only one carrying this pain, and that gave me hope. Months passed, and the trial loomed closer. I was terrified of facing John and his friends in court, of reliving that night in front of strangers. But I knew I had to do it, not just for me, but for every woman who had ever been hurt and silenced. I wasn't going to let them take my voice. The day of the trial, I walked into the courtroom with my head held high, even though my knees were shaking. John wouldn't look at me, but I could feel his presence, heavy and suffocating. Mike and Tommy sat beside him, their faces blank, like they felt no remorse. I took a deep breath and told my story, every painful detail, my voice steady even as my heart raced. Lisa was there, sitting in the front row, her eyes locked on mine, giving me strength. When it was over, the jury found them guilty. John got 7 years. Mike and Tommy got 5 each. It wasn't enough, not for what they did, but it was something. It was justice, or at least the closest I could get to it. After the trial, I moved to a new city. I needed a fresh start, a place where the memories of that night wouldn't follow me. I got a new job, a small apartment with big windows that let in the sunlight, and I started to rebuild my life. I planted flowers in pots on my balcony, just like I'd dreamed of. I made new friends, people who didn't know my past, who saw me as Amora, not as a victim. I still carry scars, some on my body, some on my heart, but they don't define me. I'm learning to love myself again, to trust again, to believe in the possibility of a future filled with light. I don't know if I'll ever find the kind of love I once dreamed of, but I know now that the most important love is the one I give myself. That night changed me, but it didn't break me. I'm stronger now, fiercer, more alive than I ever was with John. And every day, I'm learning to take back the pieces of myself they tried to steal. I'm Amora, and I'm still here.